Let's discuss this further now. We're joined in studio by ActionSA Ekurhuleni caucus leader, Siyanda Makhubo. Good to have you, and thank you very much for your time. It seems it took a motion of no confidence to get the mayor to face cameras. We've at least been trying to get him to come and speak about what's happening in that municipality. A victory, but others would look at it and say it's a complicated victory, maybe in some instances a hollow victory. What do you say?
No, thank you for having us, Thabo. It is not exactly a victory for ActionSA. It is the victory for the residents of the city of Ekurhuleni, because now we have a chance to redeem what has been lost in the city. We have seen a city being in decline in the financial mismanagement of resources. We have seen a city being unable to table for the first time in its history, unable to table its AG report on time. We have seen a city that's unable to pay service providers who are then responsible for providing service delivery for residents. We're also seeing a mayor that was compromised, and that is why ActionSA has called this mayor puppet mayor, because the truth of the matter is that this mayor comes from a minority party. It's a three-party party in council, a compromise between the ANC and the EFF coalition, where they disagreed who should be mayor from both parties. The mayor was taking instructions largely from the EFF, which is very interesting, because the ANC remains the largest party in council. They remain the largest party in terms of ward representation, but the mayor was taking direct instructions from the EFF. We in the city of Ekurhuleni have an executive system where the power is vested in the executive mayor, and the mayor then delegates his authority and executive powers to MMCs. But what we were seeing with the executive mayor was that he was compromised largely by the EFF. And so ActionSA saw it fit to submit this vote of no confidence to get things right from that level, from that strategic level, from that executive level, because then it filtered down to officials who were just starting to hamper service delivery.
So, I mean, the ANC seems to say they have no view about this mayor. They were not lobbied about it. They were not persuaded otherwise about it. Hence, they decided to abstain. However, they do have a problem with the EFF, even though Banazalo Sufi doesn't want to call them out and say the EFF, and saying this is a small party that holds particular portfolios, but doesn't consult their partners, including the ANC, as you put it, which has the most wards in the municipality. So their gripe seemingly with the mayoral committee more than the mayor himself.
Yeah, and that's very problematic, because the ANC has then been very monopolistic with the truth, because it would have been in the October council meeting where ActionSA and other political parties petitioned the speaker to have an urgent council meeting to discuss the financial crisis of the city. That council meeting sat, and we discussed and debated the financial crisis of the city. ANC was one of the parties who made representations in council, conceding to the fact that things are not going well in the city. Following that meeting, which would have collapsed in November, collapsed by the EFF on instruction by the speaker, was that we saw it fit that a vote of no confidence was imminent and that it was rather urgent. And ActionSA then considered to consult other parties in council, and one of the parties that we consulted was the ANC. As I said earlier, the ANC is the largest party in council, and it cannot be ignored. It is for that reason why we consulted with the ANC, the DA, the FF+, and other parties in council, and they all agreed that there is a problem in the city. So they're being disingenuous with the truth. They know exactly what's happening. They would have made the same representation in the January council meeting and in the February council meeting, where they considered that there really is a problem in the city and something needed to be done. When we tabled the vote of no confidence against the mayor, we represented in the programming committee, and one of the representatives of the ANC agreed that this motion is necessary, that this motion must find expression in council, and we were confident enough that this motion will succeed.
You were confident enough that this motion would succeed, but you were also confident enough that the ANC was going to really vote with you, right? The numbers are not bearing that out in terms of 47 and 32 who were for. I mean, who were against. So 79 people voted there. It's still not clear who's in and who's out. But you didn't get an overwhelming support from the ANC on the mayor. However, the ANC then voted with the EFF for the speaker to stay. So that's why I'm saying, in one instance, you would say, yes, it's a victory, they're with you. But on the other hand, they're not really with you.
Yeah, so one needs to isolate the issues. The first issue was the issue with the executive mayor, which is linked to what ActionSA is really interested in, and that is service delivery, making sure that the city is a all-round machine, and making sure that the finances of the city are in good check. The other conversation was the issue with the speaker. We agree that we do have a speaker problem in council. We've even branded the speaker a delinquent EFF speaker, because the speaker is instrumental in protecting and making sure that the executive is not held accountable. We agree that we do have a speaker problem. But what we were very careful to do, Thabo, is that we did not want to be reckless into removing both the speaker and the executive mayor. Because that would have said that there would have been a leadership vacuum within council. It would have meant that we would have not had political leadership at that level. And it would have meant that officials would have been very confused, because there would have been no leadership, political direction of the city at that level. So that is why some political parties opted not to support the vote of no confidence against the speaker, but abstained for the executive mayor. But we're very confident that abstaining is a vote. The ANC and the DA can claim otherwise. Them abstaining is actually supporting the vote of no confidence against the mayor. And that is why we have the numbers that we have today.
So do you then think there will be a government? Because currently there is no government in place, so to speak, except, of course, you still have a speaker there that will be able to run things. But do you think in 7 days there will be a mayor?
And it is for that reason ActionSA made those recommendations in our motion, that within 7 days the speaker must call for a council meeting. Can you imagine if we voted out the very same speaker today? Then we wouldn't have had a speaker to call that urgent council meeting. So we are petitioning the speaker through that motion to call an urgent council meeting for an election of an executive mayor, who would then appoint their mayoral committee. But what is very important is that we need to make sure that parties are mature enough in making sure that we do have an executive mayor, that we need to make sure that once we have that executive mayor, there is political direction. Look, you can have 10 executive mayors in 1 year, but what's very important is that the administration of the city is intact. We do have a city manager in the city of Ekurhuleni. We do have HODs for each department and divisional heads. We have good, dedicated officials and employees of the city working hard to make sure that the city does not collapse. And it is thanks to those employees who have kept the ship running, even though there's political vacuum within the city. But what we're saying is that a vote of no confidence was very necessary to steer the direction of the city, to make sure that there is political leadership at that point. Yeah. We now have a speaker in council. We have a chief whip in council, and now what's left to do is to make sure that we fill the vacuum of the executive to take the city forward. So the question then for ActionSA, who will you be working with? Because to remove the mayor, it doesn't seem like you work with the DA. It doesn't seem like you work with your usual coalition partners, but it does seem like you had some collaboration with the Super 7. Yeah, so we like I said, we consulted with all political parties, and the Democratic Alliance, the FF+, ACDP, IFP, the ANC, the PA, and all other parties in council were consulted. We were really surprised to find out from the Democratic Alliance on the 29th of February, at the first attempt of our council meeting, that they're proposing to dissolve council, which is a ridiculous recommendation. We respect the voters of the 2021 local government elections, who said to us there is no outright winner in the city of Ekurhuleni. You will form a government, you will work together, and you'll make sure that you put residents forward. So the recommendations brought forward by the Democratic Alliance goes to the core of that. It goes to the core of attacking the right of voters from the 2021 local government elections. And we're of the view that before you even suggest and recommend a dissolution of council, there must have been an internal process that you would have exhausted before you recommend to dissolve council. So the DA turned at the last minute for this motion, to support this motion, and they decided to dissolve council, which no one supported. In any case, it would have been an illegal exercise, because it would have changed the original substance of the motion. And so that recommendation was thrown out. However, consulting with other political parties, including Super 7, these are the 7 minority parties in council, including the mayor's party, by the way. They were also consulted, who decided obviously to vote with the EFF today for obvious political reasons. But all parties in council were consulted, and for their own political reasons, they voted the way they did.
Yeah, but now you are going to be looking to vote for a mayor. I'm asking you, who will you be working with in terms of who's going to be a mayor?
Well, ActionSA is very confident with the competency that we have. We are currently in consultation with our national leadership, asking for direction on whether we should put forward a candidate. If we are given that opportunity by the national leadership, ActionSA will put forward a candidate. All 15 councillors of ActionSA in council are competent enough to take the city forward. And it is for that reason we decided to put this motion forward, because sometimes parties will put a motion forward without a plan. We do have a plan. If the national leadership says we should put forward a candidate, we will canvass parties in council. We have a good relationship with all parties in council, save for the EFF, dare I say. But we do have a good relationship with all parties in council. We will negotiate and we'll find common ground. And obviously, naturally, we gravitate towards your multi-party charter coalition partners. We will consult with those parties and see if we can form a government. If we're unable to form a government, because the numbers in Ekurhuleni are so tight, I don't even think there's any other municipality in the country that have the numbers that we have. They're so tight in such a way that each councillor, each number, each party in council does count, but we are in that position to get that done.
So in that direction of the multi-party charter, the DA did not support your motion for their reasons, because they wanted dissolution of council. If they field a candidate, would you be supporting that mayoral candidate?
Look, ActionSA remains an independent party away from the Democratic Alliance. We respect the Democratic Alliance or other parties. For instance, if the FF Plus or ACDP, who are our coalition partners, want to field a candidate, they're more than able to do that. And residents must take note of this, because the multi-party charter coalition does not exist in local government. And so parties are able to talk to any other parties of common interest. And if the Democratic Alliance feels that this is a common interest to put residents first, to fix Ekurhuleni, to get things done, and if they're of the view that they want to work with ActionSA, our doors remain open. But we remain an independent party from the Democratic Alliance, and that is why they were allowed to put recommendations forward to our motion of the dissolution of council. We respect those wishes that they have, and ActionSA is adamant to say that if they want to fix Ekurhuleni, then they will support an ActionSA candidate.
So there's someone saying, I mean, part of what's being discussed now, as Panyaza Lusufi says, the phones are ringing now that they've removed the mayor. People are beginning to pay attention to say, look, you can't just have your way. You need to consult and speak to everybody else. But part of that consultation is the bargaining that's going on now to say, well, the EFF will then have a speaker, but the ANC will have a mayor.
And that's very unfortunate, because what's happening now is that the bargaining of municipalities is starting to take shape. We've heard through the grapevine that the EFF is threatening to take away Johannesburg from ANC, eThekwini, Gqeberha, for instance, and Mogale City. And that's very unfortunate. And that is why ActionSA says the issues of Ekurhuleni must remain the issues of Ekurhuleni. When our relationship with the Democratic Alliance collapsed in Johannesburg, it did not affect or impact Tshwane relationship, for instance. And that is very unfortunate, because coalitions are reality. They are here to stay. It is dawning on everyone that they are reality. And so it would require parties to be very matured in those coalitions, to be very matured of the fact that the issues of Ekurhuleni must remain the issues of Ekurhuleni. And therefore, the bargaining of positions, the bargaining of municipalities cannot take shape for under the interest of the residents of Ekurhuleni. If parties are matured enough, they must put the residents of Ekurhuleni first and no one else. So the talks of an ANC mayor or EFF speaker are talks that are rather unfortunate, and they have no interest of residents at heart.
So you would not be supporting that kind of thing, because that's also within the framework of the ANC, as Panyaza says, is that's how they are planning to work now going forward within that framework, where they say, if we are the party with the most wards, the majority in that sense, of course not a majority in terms of running that council, surely we should be the ones occupying the seat of the mayor.
And these are recommendations that were brought forward by the ANC in council that ActionSA vehemently rejected, because we do not have an executive system like the city of eThekwini, where the party with the largest votes automatically becomes the executive mayor, and then proportionally parties share seats in the mayoral committee. We do not have that in the city of Ekurhuleni. What we have is we have an executive mayor elected by council itself, where parties are able to vote or vote against that candidate. And we are saying that let the best man or woman win. Parties must be allowed to nominate a candidate, put forward their candidate, and if the numbers are on their side, that parties must be allowed to govern and form a coalition government. So whatever is bargaining between the EFF and the ANC does not have their residents' interests at heart, and that's rather unfortunate.
Siyanda Makhubo, appreciate your time. Thanks so much for coming in. Siyanda Makhubo, ActionSA's Ekurhuleni caucus leader.